still remember a moment at St Kilda, my first year. Rod Butters, he said to me, senior coaching takes grown men to places they should never go. And at the time I thought to myself, geez, what's he talking about there? But now I know.
I know a lot of my old coaches are going to see this, but when I started, I said all senior coaches are weird. They're all weird in their own way. Doesn't mean I don't love them, but they're all weird. Now, what I can't work out is, were they always that way? Or does the job turn them that way?
We got Hawthorn this week after watching them on Friday night dismantle Fremantle. You're cheering for Hawthorn because you're an old West Coaster, don't like Fremantle too much. And you see them getting poleaxed, and then at half-time you go, oh, hang on, we play them next week. And sort of reality hits.
I said I hope it's a good game.
Yes, if we win it, will be a good one. If we lose, it'll be a bad one.
Play hard, boys.
That's the plan.
Yep. Well done. Bye.
See ya.
So off to Hawthorn, Bluey?
Yeah, it's going to be a good test. 2-1 in this stage of the season. We've won 2 games at home and against Brisbane and Richmond. So a good opportunity against the league leaders, and they're in bloody good form themselves. I got to pitch myself winning because I have to then put that out onto the players. I need to fill them with the confidence we can win this. And so they're going to sit there looking at me going, Bluey, I know you're red-haired and Irish and all that sort of stuff, but you are off your tap. You're off tap tonight. But I have to sell to them that we can win. And how we're going to win this is A, B, C. And this is how we're going to do it. And if we do this to our best ability, we give ourselves a great chance.
All through my playing career, I loved the off-field side of footy. I love the how of footy. How do you get that done? How do you get better? And I was really intrigued by what made teams win.
When I finished playing, I wrote down 25 points of things I liked about coaches and didn't like about coaches. If I ever was going to coach, I didn't want to make the same mistakes that some of them made, and I wanted to do some of the things that they've done really well. I still have it, yeah.
I can remember sitting in the rooms post-game, exhausted, on the end of a beating, copping a spray from Robert Walls and seeing the frustration. I remember thinking, even as an 18-year-old, gee, I wouldn't want his job.
I reckon I did start to think about it when I was about 27, but I was starting to question a lot about the coaches I'd been under. It meant that I was now starting to formulate what I would do. I never dreamed I'd be an AFL coach. Never dreamed.
With Leon Cameron today named as Kevin Sheedy's successor at GWS, Ken Hinkley can do everything but name his price at Port Adelaide.
I was reluctant. I'd missed out on 2 or 3 jobs. It probably did put a bit of a scar on me, and look, I've been through this before. I know the end result. I'm going to build my hopes up, going to get my family confused with what's going to happen, what's going to go on. And I'd got to that stage, well, I'll tell you what I'm about. I'll explain to you what I think. And if that's not good enough, well, that's not good enough.
It's not every day you get an opportunity to work with, obviously, Kevin, 4-time premiership coach, a legend of the game. I'm big on you've got to be in it to win it. And it's hard because sometimes you can be labelled as a person that might be going for a number of jobs and you miss out, and then all of a sudden your time's up because in comes the next batch.
People have said the last man standing. I've heard those comments. Maybe I was the right man standing.
There's a lot more headhunting going on now, and no, I think it serves more benefit actually just sitting there and saying, no, I don't want to interview. And I think you'll find
they want you more.
They do. The harder you play. It's like the good-looking girl at the nightclub, isn't it? The harder she is, the more you want her, the least likely you are to get it, probably.
He's the fourth AFL coach appointment in 5 days and another with no previous senior experience.
Lee Matthews was on the panel. To have Lee Matthews asking you questions about your coaching philosophy and just looking at you with that Lee Matthews look, you know, and just drilling you on your answers, it feels like you're sweating bullets. You do look back and wonder how the hell you got through it.
I don't know what a police interrogation is like, but it's very much like that. I had Emmett Dunn, who does work for the police force. I'm a bit of a guy that likes my personal space, and Emmett was sitting right beside me and he kept firing these questions at me really loudly in my ear, and I was getting quite agitated by the end. I didn't know whether I was going to try and left hook him or actually answer the question.
A lot of people don't like the initial phase of being uncomfortable, but I actually really enjoyed it. So whether that makes me semi-sadistic, I'm not sure.
The youngest son, Lockie, and I were watching the football, had the betting odds for people at the Western Bulldogs, and there were 4 names still up. And I was about $26. And Locke said, "Hey, Dad, there's only 2 left, isn't there?" Yeah, I said, "Yeah, there's only 2 left." Well, that's what they told me today. And he said, "Gee, they're good odds."
It goes from trying your absolute guts out to get this job, to all of a sudden you've been told you've got the job and you go, oh, shit, now do I really want to do it?
The last chat was here at the club on a Sunday night before it was announced the next day, and I left that meeting thinking, well, I think I've botched this. I got home and everyone was in bed, so I had a beer and a bit of pizza, and the phone rang, and Simon Garlick, and he said, "Look, I'd like you to work for us." So I shared it with the dogs out the back, really. I had a bit of a jump for joy and told Kirsten. She said, "Oh, that's great," and went back to sleep.
We had our team photo taken and I'm the one sitting in the middle. You think, oh, geez, I'm the coach.
My wife actually brought it up. She says, "You're one of 18 coaches. It's now on."
Like, I remember taking pictures on my phone the first time he was on the TV and it said head coach.
I'd be lying if I said that at times I don't just think back to when I was a kid, and now that I'm actually coaching an AFL club, it's insane. It really is.
Kids want to play footy when they grow up. The kids don't dream of being an AFL coach.
No, but you can't play footy forever. Coaches are just footballers who can't play anymore. It doesn't matter what level. And once you stop playing, you still want to get the thrill of the chase, and that's the only way.
It's going to end and it probably won't be fun, and you just got to not think about that because we've got to enjoy the ride while it's going good.
The world I used to know, sure, it looks different today. The world I used to know sure looks different today. The way we treat each other.
Lee, good to see you. Good to see you, Rob. Do it again.
You know the old saying, you ask? If you want something done, you ask a busy man. That's about right.
The hours that we put into it back in those days compared with the full-time commitment of coaches, plural, 10 or 11 or 12 of them they've got these days.
I mean, the actual coaching function has changed enormously in the modern era.
I ended up being stupid about it. I was trying to do a normal job with normal hours and to do the footy job in the best way possible. I end up on 4 or 5 hours sleep a night for about 20-odd years, which was the most stupid thing I've done in my life.
It's the obsessive nature of the job. I mean, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle.
David Parkin coached Hawthorn to the VFL Premiership in 1978. His ability as a coach is highly respected.
I mean, I'd take my hat off to those guys. What they sacrificed to be senior football coaches is far, far greater than what we do.
Those coaches, in fairness to them, had to do everything. The lack of resource around them was frightening in hindsight. I'm not sure I could coach, but I certainly need the tools of video and or the statistical support. There's no doubt that's why game plans were simpler. It was harder to teach, and the great players figured it out for themselves, and the rest just tried their hardest.
This is where it's hard. This is when your legs ache, and however you're feeling, they're aching just as much. We've got a bit of faith. They're wondering, can we pick them up?
I look at it even in my time, Wood, where you did 95% of the coaching. Now I suspect the senior coach is doing 30% of the coaching and delegating the other 70%, because that's, if you've got all these assistants, you've got to use them. I was a bad delegator, and I much prefer to have coached in the part-time era than the full-time era. I mean, most of us are control freaks, and we'd like to be in control.
You want to control your own destiny.
You know, everyone thinks more is better, so if more is better, you've got to delegate.
Is there anything specific with movement you want from this last drill? I think it's blind faith to walk into an organisation, delegate to people and hope that they can do the job. There needs to be accountability around that delegation, and there needs to be a level of trust in people that they're competent to do the job. We've been doing this for 4 years. I still don't understand it. But they do, and that's all that matters. 3.5, 4 years in now, I've got supreme confidence in the people that are doing the job, so I'd probably delegate more than I did.
I had to change my ways, both for the benefit of the players, the benefit of myself, but also the benefit of the assistant coaches, to delegate a lot of responsibilities to them. If I was going to be a long-term coach at this club, the message needed to be spread. Watch me at football training, you think, oh, how can this bloke be coaching the side? I haven't taken a drill at training for 3 years. Like that, so you're going to capture me talking to you. Go on, get me and Ruffy. Make sure you kick the goal, lad.
Oh, yeah.
Good coaching.
What about...
I think a senior coach now teaches them structures, teaches them where to be when the ball's here, how we're going to attack from that position, how we're going to defend from that position, and what we're going to do around a stoppage. Because I think now the assistant coach is the ones that actually teach them the tools or the technique.
The jump from an assistant, even being a senior type assistant, to the senior position is, I don't know, can you say 300%? It's quite a massive jump and leap.
As an assistant, you're an ideas man. As a senior coach, you're the decider. And now chalk and cheese.
So you're quite often having to make decisions all the time. Whereas as an assistant, you're thinking, oh, I would have done that different. That's something I'm still adjusting to.
But I reckon it's the difference between a grandparent and a parent. So it's nearly like all care, no responsibility as an assistant coach. But then when you're a senior coach, you're the mum or the dad, and everything counts, and there's no switching off.
It's really hard to be a true football coach as a senior coach, there's no doubt, because you've got so many other things you've got to be in control of, or a lot of that's the marketing of the club, it's the selling of the club.
What I still struggle with to this point is dealing with a playing list of 45 players and a staff of about 30 that want one-on-one, face-to-face time with you as often as possible.
I used to laugh at coaches that would say that they can't switch off and just think, surely you can, but at this level, at senior coach level at AFL, you're getting pulled and pushed all sorts of different directions, with media commitments and corporate functions and sponsors functions, and it's a lot of management and a lot of meetings, unfortunately, when we really just want to coach.
Your office is over here, isn't it?
Yes, have a good shot of those. We call that the Lexus Centre. We're into our 4th season. Still, we haven't got a training and administration facility right now. Our boys, our players, they don't talk about it. They don't worry about it. As long as there's green grass and 4 posts at either end, they head down, backside up, and they go at it, which is fantastic. It's all about being harder for longer. This game will be won by the most disciplined side. Make no mistake about that. Know that you're ready. Know that you're ready to test them out. Know that you're good enough if the effort is strong enough. We've all been part of this club's foundation, formation, if you like. We've had some history along the way. Can't say a lot of good history, but this is an opportunity that we're ready to stand our own 2 feet, stand our ground, stand in line of that traffic, apply that pressure to the premiers from last year, and make some gripping history tonight.
if we're prepared to work and work hard, just go and do it.
Far out there's some mean people out there. People just tend to forget that these are just human beings.
I've heard a lot of comment over my life. A lot of coaches get criticised in the paper, and I've heard a lot of comments on radio and television by people that have never coached. And I think that you have no idea how hard this job is in the coaching arena. So be careful about your comments, because you don't know.
I think football fans, quite frankly, deserve better than the rubbish being served up in the last couple of weeks. Australians deserve the bloody truth. Too many Australians know the press have the power. Well, it's just not fair.
If you want to make a fool of yourself, that's your business. You work for us, pal.
Look, don't try and put me on the spot. I said it was nowhere near accurate.
Well, you put the press on the spot, and you put the media on the spot.
Well, why shouldn't I?
Can't we come back at you?
Yes, well, okay, you come back.
Right.
And I've still stuck to my same story.
Good.
So where does that leave you?
The same place I was before, coming to give you these...
I never had problems with the media. Well, I had problems, but not in a way of coping with the idea of talking to the media and stuff like that. I was quite okay in that area. Both parties have got to exist in this.
Need each other.
They need each other, yeah.
I suppose it is a marriage of convenience. Certainly there are coaches the media don't like.
How do you suspect the coaches view the media?
Charitable reply would be they view us much as people in the desert view flies and buzzing insects.
You can't say that, mate. I can say that about your journalism. If you're a soft journalism, you're a terrible journalist. You're lucky you didn't wear a left hook, I reckon, mate.
Yeah. Ask that question again, good luck. I have got a thick skin, but I've also got a bit of a fiery nature as well, though, which can get me in a little bit of trouble. I do tend to react sometimes, which frustrates me because I let myself get... You just get angry.
When I was at Harvard earlier this year doing a course over there, we were doing a case study on the Chilean mine disaster. We were asked to take on, role play type of situations, and I was delegated the role of media manager. Ironically enough, 33 miners trapped underground and things. This is happening live on TV. How are you handling it? And I'm saying, move them out of the road. We got a serious operation here that we need to rescue these miners, and they're just going to get in the road. The rest of the people in my group were going, whoa, geez, that's a little bit over the top. Why have you got that attitude? Were you burned as a kid? Is there someone that did the wrong thing by you?
You mentioned over there. Well, they didn't train. How many times do blokes not train and they still play? I don't know. Well, you've got to get over that, mate.
The landscape of media and how you deal with it has changed enormously. Mine, in retrospect, now has been too archaic and too defensive, probably.
The common denominator is the post-game press conference, because the post-game press conference, you come off the result, whether it's so that thinking on your feet of how do I handle this? Every question is like, how do I handle this to give the best response? I must admit, I kind of used to enjoy it as a bit of a challenge. I mean, we all put our foot wrong, but it's, can I get through this 15 minutes without something coming out that I don't want to come out?
When the media manager comes and says, oh, by the way, you got your press conference now, that's probably the first time I've thought about it. And that might trivialise the press conference.
The wastefulness in front of goal, what do you put that down to? Was it pressure at times, or do you think that they should have nailed the shots they had?
What do you reckon?
At times it was pressure, at times I thought they missed some easy shots.
Exactly. All I want is be prepared and don't have a set of questions out and I've answered 3 in 1 and then you repeat it, or you haven't watched the game. They don't look for good news. So it's how you minimise the bad news you're going to give them.
I feel like saying that is the stupidest question I've ever heard.
seriously, are you even watching this game? I think that's what you'd like to say half the time. And that's why the cliched stuff comes out, because you want to say, dumb question, next, but then you can't.
If you ask good questions, I'm usually pretty good. If someone asks me a question, the first thing that goes through my head is, why are they asking this question? I have a philosophy never to say anything that other people will get asked about.
If you've got a reporter that's sitting at the back door of the football club with a cameraman, just so they can get 5 or 6 seconds of vision, and a player or a coach or someone saying no comment. You know, their bosses are back at headquarters saying, we need you to get that. I understand that. Clearly there's methods that are not right, but I pin it on the leadership more than I do on the foot soldiers.
There are some that I'll happily engage more than others, and there are some that I won't engage at all. If you consistently appeal to the lowest common denominator, that's your right, but it's not my obligation to engage you either.
How important is the top 2 finish?
You reckon that's a silly question?
No, I don't.
We want to finish 4th.
How crucial is that to going back to back?
Pretty important, isn't it? Finish top 2, so thanks, guys. Cheers. How important is it to finish top 2?
Needed to be a bit of fun, you know. I mean, you're not going to win that many premierships, are you? History says you're not going to win many. So in between your wins and losses of grand finals, can you keep the place happy? And can you keep the fans really excited that there's a chance coming? And I think that's part of the art of working with the media, headbutting the media, having serious debate with the media, but they are the voice of the game as well. You wouldn't wish them to have as your enemy.
Hey, Chappie! Pull back in this way. It's coming inside. Who? Well, it's not right. Figure it out. Yeah. Take off, take off. Go, 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 go. Good. Come on, you need that kick. Good kick.
Have you sensed even in yourself a change in you since being a senior coach?
I think so. I think I've become more private. Probably don't venture out as much. I'm not sure why. I don't like people staring at me, if that makes sense. It sounds a bit weird, but even at my son's footy games, I'll go and stand at the furthest part of the ground possible, or with people I only know. It's just, I don't know, it's just one of those things that I'm uncomfortable with.
Trying to help at junior football games and being poisoned in trying to make a contribution, but you're perceived to be threat in some sort of way. You just want to be a parent like everyone else. It hurts me deeply. It makes me appear to be a snob. You just want to stand right in the background and say a kid isn't labelled as the son of an AFL coach, you know.
I've spent my career working with high performers and the environments that house them, and I think coaching at the senior level is the loneliest job in football because they are so much part of the team and the group and everything that goes with that, all of the love that goes with that. But at the end of the day, they've got to step away, and it's an extremely isolating position.
I reckon a couple of months into my job, Pippa said to me, you know that it's a very lonely existence. And the friends that you have now, your relationships will change. And I think that's been the reality for me. I guess it is lonely, but it's self-imposed in a way. And so many of the problems that you have flowing through your mind as a coach can only be worked through truly by yourself. I hate all this introspection, by the way, so.
Look, it is a very lonely job if you want it to become a lonely job, and if you let it. I walk to work, it takes me an hour. I love it. I pick a certain route, which is basically through these Fitzroy Gardens. Try to cut through there without being overly sort of stopped. And big groups, I get on the other side of the road. Probably takes me an extra 10 minutes to avoid people, but it's worth it.
Celebrity, which we know is exhausting for people, you constantly have a mask on because it's football, it's something that we love and we're passionate about. So there's a sense of not just being in awe of the celebrity of the person, but wanting to be close to them as well. So their space is very compressed.
My worst fear is going to shopping centres. I can't stand it. So I very rarely go. I go to a small movie cinema in Brighton where I don't have to run into any people. So my wife thinks I'm a genuine hermit.
My preference would be to walk down the street and have no one know me. I'm a pretty private person, and hopefully at some point I can fade away into the distance and live a life out of the public eye. But look, if I'm not doing this in 10 years' time, it won't be because the public exposure got me.
I think the great risk for them is that they just keep coping rather than actually thriving in that environment. If you think that your worth is only based on your results, we're going to have a problem. The greatest challenge for them is to find a sense of themselves that's within and outside football and not get seduced and consumed by the myth that this is a definition of the man.
I accepted the loneliness of it. Oh yes, took over me a bit, and on reflection, I'm sometimes asked if you had your time over again, would you change anything? Well, it's a futile sort of exercise, really, but I think it's a question of responsibility, and if the side is losing, you'd feel responsible. No matter, you might have 10 assistants, but it's you.
Can't do that, sake. Sorry, boys, I'm gonna have a heart attack. You boys have been awesome tonight.
Take a breath.
You can't avoid stress altogether without question. There's an element of this game where there's just anxiety. I lay awake at night just thinking about footy all the time.
Early mornings, just about every morning, waking up at 3, 4 o'clock and there's a footy thought. And that's what happens. I sit here and I go, I want to do it for a long time. I don't know that I can. As much as I love what I do, it's at some stage, I'm sure it's going to wear you down.
There's a lot of stressful jobs in the community. A lot of stressful jobs. I mean, whether it's being doctors or just trying to make sales targets, there's a lot of people under stress in the community because of their work environment.
They've all got mortgages, I don't see my job as any different. I just see it as more public. So I'm not sitting here thinking, poor me.
Eagles coach John Worsfold has quit the club. The 44-year-old, who's been involved in every one of the Eagles premierships, handed in his resignation to CEO Trevor Nisbet this morning.
The pressure and the stress is relentless. The reason I can talk about it now is because I've had a period where that pressure's gone. And all of a sudden I think, I didn't know you could be relaxed like this. I feel like I'm seeing more of my life.
Big news here, Jim, that 7 News can reveal that Danny Frawley has just told the Richmond players and the football club that he is quitting.
When you're going through that last year, I got psoriasis in the last year at Richmond. The stress is, I don't know, I've been through a few stressful things in my life, but that took the cake. Did turn me off football there for quite a while. But through no fault, just the stress of it was just like,
I think the exposure sometimes coaches get when they're losing, there's a tipping point there. There was one particular game there where we'd lost 4 in a row, and I thought, God, if I show these guys this tape of what they can't do again, it becomes self-fulfilling for them as well. And I've clunked this air compressor. I didn't do my homework on this one. I clunked the air compressor up the steps, and I could see the players, and I'm walking this air compressor past them on the wooden floor, and it was clunking. I could hear the players thinking, Spud's really lost it. He's lost it now. And I've got the air compressor, it was about 90 kilos, so I just got it over my head. And I said, what am I? And someone said, angry. I said, no, what am I? Frustrated. I said, no, what am I? And Chubba Kellaway, he's a beauty, said, you're under the pump. Bloody oath, I'm under the pump.
There's been coaches found wandering the beaches at Middle Park at 3 a.m, needing support. So I remember sitting at Moorabbin at the train station at 4:30 or 5 having a breakfast with all the workers, waiting for the gates to open. I thought, what's happened to me?
It changes you. It's a stressor. Well, the missus used to ask me if I wanted a glass of wine every time that I came home from training when I was playing, and I'd say no, no, no. I can't get home quick enough these days. It takes me exactly 7.5 steps to get from the front door to the corner of that bench to have a glass of wine with Tanya after a full day at the club.
I eat for stress, so I've had periods where I put on a fair bit. It never leaves me.
So it's a 33-point half-time lead to the Hawks over the Gold Coast Suns. Must say it's looking a little ominous for Guy McKenna and his players. Can they turn it around?
It's going to be embarrassing, but we can turn this around. I love games like this. They've done their best for a half. We haven't even gone close to our best yet. Maybe 5 or 6 minutes. So it's an opportunity now for us to be hard in the head now. Maintain our discipline. Let's put them to school. We haven't tested them out yet. A great test for us mentally and physically. Let's get after these. My message to our group is just compete. It doesn't take talent to compete. If you get effort, you give yourself a chance to win, don't you? In anything in life. Hey, you can do that now. Front-on contact. Yeah, we're just getting a bit sucked in, aren't we? A bit over keen, which is, so sure you kick and we can get rewarded. Little, hutchie. Must be a bad footy. Oh, it's the best. You find out what they like, that's all. Fremantle taught us a lesson, these boys have, that's for sure. Give it. And start feeling sorry for yourself, son. Smart ass. Learn to work. First stinker, let it be the last stinker.
After coaching Hawthorn and Carlton to 3 premierships in 8 years, the Park and Midas touch looks to be now working at Fitzroy. As he prepares for the 1988 season, he admitted today that he is far too critical of players when performances aren't adequate.
Maybe I've learnt an enormous amount in the last month about myself and about my relationship with players. It should make me better at it in the 1988 season.
I could count on one hand the players that I've coached, and a lot of them, who I would call personal friends.
I never developed friendships. You just haven't got time for a close one.
We talk about Gen Y, and their belief is that anyone over 50 is a cement head, haven't got a lot to offer. But in those days, and I can remember Brasson, some of the things he said, they just ring in your ears now.
I don't know why you're looking at me like that, mate. You're number one, just about. If our friends weren't here, you'd cop right out.
All the senior players got at the back, and you see the young kids go in the front and bang, but we'd all laugh about it. Now, if you look, as a coach, look sideways at a player, you probably get a letter from the solicitor on Monday morning.
I do not ever try to impose myself into anything else but a player-coach relationship. My tip is to coaches, never force that issue.
I probably think now I'm naive a little bit. I'm thinking you can. Probably leaning towards 2 mates here at the moment.
They're busy young men. They've got their own lives. They don't want a 40-something-year-old dagging around them.
Well, the one piece of advice Lee gave me, which has actually happened already, he said, don't be first to the buffet. If you sit down on the table first, he said, you'll watch all the tables around you get filled until the last person standing there looking around for one more table. And he's right, it does happen.
There's a bit of that. I just get room service. Some people get nervous to talk to me, but it's just that invisible sticker of senior coach on your head. I've got to say the right things to you. I walk away with some conversations and what was he talking like that for? Why do you react like that for, People sometimes actually will walk out of my way, like sometimes you see them coming in the hallway and they'll zip into it and I think, why has he just walked into there? I mean, he never goes in there, you just think, well, why is that? Well, hang on, the senior coach, we just lost on the wee. I don't want to have a chat to him. I'm going to hide in this bin,
It's amazing how many eyes go down, and it's like you're a lion hunting a zebra.
Yeah, they do some strange things. There's no doubt. You sense that you're walking by and they go, well, stop, he's here. And to use a different term, you're the big dog.
I've recently just put a coffee table in the office and I put a Herald Sun and an Age on it every morning. Just as a little bit of a lure. And just see if I can get a few extra boys in there in the morning.
The day your players stop walking through the door and sharing their problems with you, you're in trouble. It's over. So at the moment, they're still walking through.
JJ, what's going on with that haircut?
That looks like one of Liam Jones's dudes. Looks like one of your bits of work.
I was watching the VFL game. A ritual for me is once the AFL game's been dissected and we've reviewed is I jump into the VFL game. I always have. He was serving up some rubbish, this young guy, on the tape. So I text him and in short I'm watching some footage of you here and I don't like what I'm seeing and I'd really like you to come in and look at some edits with me first thing in the morning. And it came back sweet as, mate. Can't wait to look at them, see it to Moz. So I showed Kirsty and she said, oh, it's not too bad. I showed the kids and they said, what's wrong with that? I mulled on it for about another minute and I said, this won't be a social chat, mate. We've got some stuff to sort out here and came back straight away. Sweet as. Catch you in the morning. See you, mate. Oh, I got on with the rest of the tape. He didn't play any better.
Like most coaches, I lost a couple. There was a fellow that I used to play squash with early in the morning for I don't know how long to try and get him to compete. And in the finish, I just couldn't do it. I was starting to beat him all the time and it wasn't doing me any good. So I thought that was it. Well,
I won't tell you his name's Lance Morton, but...
But respect's the key, isn't it?
Of course it is.
It's much more important than friendship.
When I was his captain, he still only talked to me through the wire door in the front of a house. He still never invited me in. It was only when I became his assistant coach that I actually got invited into the house to have a yarn with.
I always had what I'd call a 2-beer policy. As soon as the game finished, have 2 beers and off. Leave the players. You know, you'll find out what you meant to your players when you're no longer on this earth.
This is the low-scoring Dower affair.
It's a snore fest, is what and I've said that a couple of times this year. This is called AFL football, not rugby, not soccer, but AFL footy. You just want to see them play with a little bit of flair.
I'd be staggered if every coach didn't say they care about the way the game looks. Because if the game starts to go backwards, then we all suffer. And I think it's human nature that you tend to look back on the past with rose-coloured glasses, because I don't think the game was a patch 15 years ago to what it is now.
If they kick one from this situation, will they have to be good at it? They'll have to be great at it, won't they? If they snap one and kick one from the boundary line, so be it. Then they're not going to get an easy one, all right?
I think that coaches somewhat get unfairly tarnished with not caring about how the game looks and just worried about the win-loss.
We've got the good of the game at heart and we're a bit crazy. I think that's what, maybe there's a little bit of, don't let these lunatics take control.
The overriding thing is we need to win, you know, but everyone fantasises about the past and the reality is it's easier really to destruct than create. So defence is always a bit easier to coach.
I'd love to win. Winning, don't get me wrong, is the number one thing, but I love to win a certain way. Ask me that, though, if there's 5 minutes to go and we're 5 points up. I won't hesitate to put 18 votes behind the ball.
So to suggest coaches have never done things that impact on the game and the aesthetics is naive. And have I done that? Maybe. We're all custodians of the game. Yeah, sure, there's a responsibility at some level but you can only coach to the rules.
When I'm in the coach's box and when I was out in the field playing, I couldn't give a stuff what the game looked like. I only cared what the scoreboard said.
Just take one step back from the heat of the moment. You care. You're telling me you don't care.
No, you do care.
You do care.
Only 2, Ron and Alan Jeans, had a thought for the game, the good of the game.
No, I didn't. Not when we're playing on the day. Jesus Christ.
I can't claim I had any thought
I
about it.
plead guilty.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm the same as you. Our job is limited and it's concerned with winning.
I reckon I had the capacity, out of the heat of the moment, to actually think about what's good for the game.
Did you ever do anything for the good of the game that was bad for your team?
No.
That's the point.
Coaches Association was formed in 2000 to try and come up with a collective viewpoint. But to be brutally honest, it wasn't professional. There was no money involved in it. Looking back, when I left Richmond, it was basically a cup of tea with Neil Baum and Stan Alves, and you'd sort of walk in, you thought, gee, this is the room of the SAC Coaches Club. Gee, welcome, Danny. And you'd sort of wonder, oh, wow.
Look, personally, I didn't want to join it originally, and Rusty said, mate, can you join it? Because I'm your paddle your own canoe. Look, it's grown, it's come a long way. Anything you can do to help young coaches and grow competent people, I'm supportive of.
It's really ramped up over the last 5 or 6 years where we look after the growth, the talent pathway, the transition, and the professional development of coaches whilst they're in the game and trying to build the brand of the coach. It was interesting because a lot of the guys weren't taking up their professional development funding, but now everyone is, which we think is fantastic.
It gets us one together, but we also have a common voice.
But they're also the guys that you probably least want to spend too much time with because they're the combatants.
Is there rivalry there? Is there tension there because of previous battles? 18 coaches sitting in the one room talking about a number of things is quite unique. I walked away and thought, oh, geez, it's pretty intense here.
It's all over here at Metricon. The Hawks defeat the Suns by a whopping 99 points.
How are you travelling after that?
Oh, probably in shock almost. It's not something that I was certainly planning for. You analyse it and you go, well, you can't change it. No. There's nothing I can do about it. Driving home, helpless. As a young coach too, I can be a bit too emotive, and probably too honest, I think too. I can't go to bed, obviously. I have to have a shower and cleanse myself, if you like. But yeah, I won't look at the game. I didn't say much to the boys after the game. In shock? I am too. So no point going through much right now. The competition's still alive. Turn up and play like that again, you'll pop that again. It doesn't consume me, but yeah, I'll find an old movie that I like A Few Good Men, and listen to Tom Cruise, and the boys go at one another, try and get my mind off it. I probably deep down get emotional almost each week just to see the level of these players that came to us as baby-faced little 18-year-olds. Even now it gets me a bit watery talking about it. And their turn will come. And that's what I keep preaching to them. It'll come. And just keep laying the foundations. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't cut corners. I'm sure, based on what my life has given me, that I'll be proven right.
When I was a kid and I was kicking footy to myself in the backyard, this is what I dreamed of. You dream about kicking goals and you dream about taking marks, but when you're a coach, you dream about tackles, chases, pressure. You're at your best when you're putting my way right. You've got to get the footy as well. I was thinking today that if we had a 5-on-5 footy game, who would win? Sanderson, Camporelli, Bickley, Milburn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, Bailey versus Buckley, Lappin, Ben Hart, Scott Burns, Robert Harvey and Rocket Eade.
You wouldn't score. It's a spectacular night here in South Australia in the Adelaide Oval. Thursday night football, Adelaide hosting the Pies. And tonight, there's an extra sting in the tail because in the coach's box are Sanderson and Buckley, two former teammates, housemates and best mates.
Adelaide Crows in their home deck. We thought that they'd play it like a grand final. And of course, coaching against your best mate's always interesting.
Great relationship with Bucks. I'm the godfather to his son Jet. So it's quite bizarre when Adelaide plays Collingwood and two great mates are going toe to toe in the coach's box.
We caught up with each other at his place the night before.
It's a little bit unusual that two senior coaches would catch up on the eve of such a big match, but we've got a great friendship and it's pretty easy for us just to relax and leave footy aside.
Having said that, as soon as you leave the house, I'm sure he was as keen to win as I was.
This is exciting, isn't it? This is unbelievable. It's pretty loud here too tonight, isn't it? Pre-match, I met up with a young lad called Ethan who's battling an illness. Do you know Dane Swan? He's the guy with all the tattoos. For him, I guess, a great opportunity just to experience what not many kids would get to do, and that's be out on the ground pre-game and soak up some of the atmosphere and just have a bit of a kick to kick, and it'll be an experience that Ethan will never forget.
They're good footies, aren't they? Hey, here's the big. We'll go see the big boss over here in a minute. That's Collingwood's coach. You know Nathan Buckley? Yeah. He was a really good player. He was like one of the best players ever in the AFL.
Senior.
Here he is. How are you, buddy? Ethan, this is Nathan Buckley.
How you going, Ethan? Good. Travelling all right, mate? Yeah. Who do you think's going to win tonight?
St. Crows.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah.
Oh, you're around the right top then, aren't you? Have a good night, mate, OK? Yeah. Enjoy it all.
See you, mate. Good luck. All the best.
If we're going to fail, we'll fail my way. And my way at the moment is handball. So get out there and attempt to do as I ask. If that fails, then you can blame me. But at the moment, I am blaming you. All right, now come on.
Do something! Do! Don't think! Don't hope! Do! At least you can come off and say, I did this! Do! Act! Don't think, act!
We're going to shock them! We're going to bloody blitzkrieg them! You know what blitzkrieg means? It's what the Germans did to Europe in the Second World War. They just went in and rolled right over the bloody opposition, who was stunned and amazed. And by Christ, that's what I want Richmond to be. I want you to pressure them. I want you to crash into them.
The coach would be going, you'd hear this bellowing and the girders would be ringing with the noise. Oh, totally Shakespearean, sound and fury.
There are no tomorrows. This is the ultimate stage. Be ready, because premierships are won when everybody does their bit when it's their turn to do it. So don't let us down when it's your chance.
You put your eye on the ball and you go at it with everything you've got and more. You've got to do this or you're not fit to be wearing the Guernsey. Better be carted off than have anybody say so-and-so scripted. Think of the humiliation.
The whole bloody works, the whole tribunal. Everything you've ever got and learn about and want to give, you give now, you give today. Any goal we get, another one, and another one, and another one. Just go in. Now come on!
So how do you feel when you actually hear that now?
I knew you'd ask me that. But I retired there for about 5 or 6 years, and in the middle of a year I got a message from the Sydney Football Club. Would I be interested in taking over? They were going to sack their coach, etc. And I said yes. And I was the same guy as a type of coach up in Sydney for the first 2 days. And I realised that I couldn't come the old stuff, shout all the time and that sort of stuff that I used to get sick of that anyway.
And we got a bit of Churchill, a bit of Karl Marx and a bit of the Bible in our pre-match addresses, Yeah. That still rings in my ears today. And I've, as a philosophy of life and approach, that impacts on you and carries you all the way through.
The greatest piece of advice, just do. Just do something, just do. Don't think, just do. I reckon it's one of the great timeless pieces of wisdom.
I wasn't conscious, though. Certainly not conscious of it. It's just exasperation and
not planned?
No. And I really think anything that you say is second to what's been done on the track.
The oratory is a magnificent thing, and I just think what you guys have sort of done over the years, it's unfortunate there's not more. There's more audio of it because it is inspirational. It's fantastic. But I think in the modern era where they're there all week, it's more about the preparation phase. I don't think it does much for players as much. We love it as fans. I even love listening to all that.
If you brought Barassi into this era and had him go and do what he did, would he lose the players? I don't know.
You hear of stories of, David Parkin and Kanga Kennedy and Ron Barassi. It would actually hit you and go straight through and rattle your bones.
I think of some of the great addresses that I've had from coaches, and spine still tingles now. We've gone out and got smashed.
If that's you, then I reckon it works. If it's not, it's a disaster. You got to be who you are. I would hate for any of our players to think, he's so desperate that he's trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat.
A lot of people say emotion's still not that much in the game. I sort of disagree a little bit. I think it still plays a significant part in the psyche of players, and they might be different. They might be called Gen Y, but they still react, I reckon, pretty similar.
Some of the boys will tell you, I can be speaking quite calmly, but then I can slowly build into a tirade. I'll never forget Brandon Ellis was in the front row. I saw him jump about an inch off his seat one time. I'm not sure whether a little squeal came out of his mouth as well.
If you don't have a serious orator as a coach, I don't know whether you'll win too many premierships.
Really?
You'll reach a point in a game where you've got to lift a team to play sometimes better than their capacity, mentally.
I'm definitely not one to manufacture emotion. If I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it. And if I'm not, well, then I'm worried.
You are one part of something that's bigger than you. You don't have to be the whole thing. You don't have to solve the problem all on your own. You've got mates that can help you. You've got mates in the coach's box that'll communicate with you and let you know what we're seeing. You've got mates beside you that are going to help you achieve your role by doing theirs to the best of their ability. And when you're down, they're going to pick you up.
We've had 10 days just this sitting in our guts. We've had 10 days of it. Tonight, we get the opportunity to do something about it.
You f***ing love it. This is what we do. This is what we love to do. And we're excited about what we're building.
You've got the look in the eye tonight. I'm telling you, it's there. I'm looking at you and I'm feeling it.
Each of you with an opportunity to set the agenda for yourselves and for your teammates. 30 seconds to have a think about what that feels like, what that looks like, what it means to you, and what it's going to mean to your teammates.
It's time to go to work. It's time to go to work, boys. For 120 minutes. Let's do it.
Pressure, 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 boys. Come on, let's go.
The Bombers have asked the AFL and ASADA to investigate whether their players took a stimulant which could be on the league's banned list. The strain was obvious on the face of Essendon legend James Hird.
Take full responsibility for what happens within our football department.
If you want yet another amazing statistic about the place of Australian football in this culture, was that James Hird and the Essendon drug crisis put the federal election off the front page of newspapers around Australia for 1 week last year. So, in that sense, those dramas are of incredible social consequence, and the role of someone like Hird as a senior coach.
The Essendon scenario is very difficult for us to deal with because, one, we didn't know the whole facts. Two, coaching's built on integrity, honesty, great values. Hirdy and all the Essendon coaches are a part of our membership. Could we have done things better? There's no doubting that whatsoever. So we were sort of shut out a little bit, which was disappointing from our part, but I also get that. No one will really get to the bottom of it. That's been the really disappointing part about the whole scenario.
It's a tough one because you're trying to improve your team so much and you're trying to make them sure that they can achieve their best results, and you just don't want to ever get lost in the fact that, you know, what you need to do is just make sure that what you are doing is something you do with your own kids.
I think it's a great wake-up call for everybody, and unfortunately James is the one that had to live through it. You know, as a coach, we're only so well equipped to decide what's the right thing to do medically. We don't have that sort of skills.
I mean, I did biology in year 12. That doesn't qualify me to know. As a coach, I was always told the doctor was in charge of the system. I followed that up again with the AFL. And what was reaffirmed to me is, yeah, Reece, that's exactly right. As long as everything goes through the doctor, then that's all the players can do, and that's what the coaches should rely on. But if you hear of anything that you feel is sort of untoward, then you must bring it to our attention.
I meet with my doctors pre and post every session. There's a few things. Let the cobbler do the cobbling. So everyone else loves to get involved in everyone else's position. So butt out, but have strong reports and communication. Have great clarity on their position and their role, and that creates great self-management. But that's the hardest thing to do, create the clarity. For me, it's impossible to lose track of the 45 players on my list.
Things are warm and cuddly again at Windy Hill. Essendon confirmed Thompson will coach the entire 2014 season, even though James Hird's suspension runs out before the finals. The Bombers have also appointed Neil Craig on a 2-year deal to oversee the coaching structure.
In most football departments, you have a general manager of football operations who's in charge of the whole football department. Essendon has decided to split the roles. So we have a general manager of football operations still, and then we have a general manager of football performance, which is the role I fill. I think times are changing, where it's unrealistic to expect that the buck stops with the coach. For example, the head of high performance at Essendon reports to me. If something happened in the high performance area, the buck should stop with me. But to say that the senior coach now should be in charge and totally in charge and know exactly what's happening in a total football department, give me a break.
It reinforced again that a coach is going to be the most visible person in anything that goes wrong in your football department. And again, as much as we put processes in place, a chief of football, a CEO, a board, the coach was the most visible person through that whole period.
I've been involved and been a part of environments that have had people walk out of the club worse off than they did when they walked in. You got 45 young men, some hinged, some unhinged, some with real solid values, others still growing, still learning, still developing, still really green. There is something going on all the time. It is an emotional, challenging environment.
I'm really conscious of the fact that I've actually got someone else's kids that I'm looking after and try to make sure that I look after them really well for them. I've got a 25-year-old daughter, a 22-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. I try to operate under, if that was my child, how would I like them treated, how would I like them to react and what would I like them to do?
It's their ability of the parents to cut the cord.
Cade Kolajasny, Launceston.
Keep being their parent, but you've got to let your son go. You've got to let your boy go. He's going to become a man. You've got to trust us to do that. So I go over the top. Parents want to know, ring me. Here's my number, ring me.
Say you lived in South Australia and Essendon recruit your 17, 18-year-old son. I mean, I'm actually coming to your family unit and I'm actually saying, Peter, I'm going to take your son away from you. I'm actually going to take him out of your family unit and I'm bringing him to Melbourne. I mean, I need to be really responsible in that.
I think parents should be really comfortable with what footy clubs do in terms of looking after their young guys and making sure that there's a really balanced approach to their development, and that is certainly at the cornerstone of the way I work.
When we draft them, we have a little induction day and I always finish with the same phrase, that I will look after your boy like it's my own son, which has a cuddly feel to it, but it's far from that. It's, you know, raising children is there's a firm of hard love, there's a time where you need to be all things grandpa, dad, big brother, and this role demands it.
It's absolutely imperative for clubs to provide a safe, nurturing environment for all of these young kids, because we're laying down the building blocks for the rest of their lives.
The values I raise my family with, my son, my daughters, is very much the same I want from my players. You know, generally, good people make a great club culture, and footy is a very small part of their life. You want to have them come out at the end either learning, one, more about themselves, or two, preparing them for what they're about to go into. And, it's a pretty strong responsibility from a club point of view, but also from a coaching perspective as well.
The senior coach is now less responsible than we used to be, but the buck is still always going to stop with the senior coach.
It has changed a lot, and I don't know that I'd like to be a head coach today.
I think it's probably one of the biggest things wrong with the Australian culture today. And I can remember Ron talking about this as if it was yesterday. Accept responsibility for your own actions, no excuses, no regrets, no alibis, never point the finger, never blame anybody else. And I reckon the society we live in, let alone football, if we did that today, I think it'd be a lot better place. If you're going to be strong culturally as a football club and ethically as a football club, take responsibility for your own actions and you'll have a better opportunity to be successful.
Well, Bucks, how good is it out here on the Adelaide Oval?
Yeah, you don't need much of a reminder to understand how fortunate you are to play AFL footy. It's a perfect deck, it's a full crowd. It's a Thursday night marquee event, good opportunity.
Dumb!
Tell you what, you're nowhere near it. You're nowhere.
Where are we going now?
Plano, under nines.
And what are you boys doing down there? Watch. Don't watch the ball. Watch around the contest. Tell the medical team. Reactive. Falling in our lap a bit.
Because we're in quicksand, I tell you.
Tell Chuck to go back. Tell Chuck to go back. Jesus Christ. Sake, boys.
They keep being brave, keep moving the ball forward, keep forcing it forward.
Come on. Go in front.
And pick the ball up.
They're really hard tables. I don't give in them at all.
I always like to fly with the team. We do travel a lot, 13 times as playing-wise out of the proper season. Does it wear you down? At times it does because it's a huge job. But by the time the weekend comes around, I'm ready to go. There's no bigger critique than myself. There's no bigger critiquing of where our football club is than our coaches. Monday morning when we have a review for 2 or 3 hours, win, lose or draw, it's on.
From the game through to Tuesday night is our biggest block of work. That's probably where I reckon 70% of the work is done.
When I first started, I'd have the laptop open into the game, as soon as I possibly could, so an hour after the game, and long into the night at times. Most games these days, I don't do anything the night afterwards, just have a bit of clear space to make sure that I'm doing it without emotion.
I think the biggest thing with coaches these days is to review everything that you're actually trying to implement in a game. And the best way is to code, and code means that you're looking at the game on a computer and capture that moment for 5, 6, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, and it goes into a timeline. And we do that so then we can go back to the players as a whole and explain these are the areas that really work, these are the areas that we need to get better at.
And right now we play on, boys, 44% of the time. But at times we're playing on at the wrong time. You've got to sense what's going on. If you sense that everyone's up the ground because they've jammed us in and you can get out the back, away you go. And I'm going to show you a couple of edits later on tonight about our training when we sensed we did it really well, and at times when you just got to maintain the footy.
G'day, buddy. Where you been? Haven't seen you for a few weeks.
It usually takes me about 8 hours to code and review a game. That 8 hours is just me here. I've got another 3 hours where I'll have all the coaches sit together and we'll feed all our information together. So there's 11 hours of work to do from 9 o'clock that night through to 3 o'clock the following afternoon.
I don't do any of the coding. The last thing I want to appear is big-headed, but I've watched the game the day before. I was actually at the game. All I do is when I watch the game again, it just reinforces certain things that I may have seen or may not have taken in at the time.
The better sides rely on this, a trust motion. If we've got Belly in there with Gibber and say, Murph, we're going to trust you blokes to put maximum heat on that ball. And if you then start to sniff and hunt the football as a winger, I'll guarantee what happens. You'll pop out over the back and they'll run an open goal. Let the mids be the mids. Baker bake the bread. There's going to be a tackle. 2 go. Let's say you get locked in, there's 2 go. I'm going to stand out. She's going to take this bloke. There's 3 of us going to. There's only something really 2 going to, because sometimes you get trapped inside a really shallow area. 2 go, step out, pick him up so he can't be used.
So where I'm different, and a lot of the old coaches, they were review the game, put it in the bin and move on. Whereas my view is we drip feed it all week to keep improving our football. So strap yourself in, son.
That purity of actually just enjoying going out and having a kick. I mean, we measure their kicks. We measure how far they've run. We're measuring how many kgs they're bench pressing, they're squatting, how many touches of footy they've had, how many shots on goal, what percentage do they kick. Like, it's all really heavily scrutinised and measured, and you lose that purity. I'd say it's virtually impossible to keep it.
You defended really well at training the other day. If I've got someone like that on me, or in the position you're going to play, you can't let him to run their running patterns. No, so there's a stage where you've got to bang him, and then you put him off, because he's got a plan in his mind. He's trying to wrong foot you. Don't allow that to happen. Don't just back in you. It's not a game of athletics, it's a game of footy.
The ability to be able to simplify the messages in terms of the role that they play is something that I aspire in any of my meetings, in any of the concepts that I coach. You know, I'm constantly reminding myself, right, how do I simplify this?
His vision came up really well. He still floats, and it's not, I don't think it's on the back of a lack of intent. I think it's on the back of a lack of understanding. So he just doesn't quite understand where he should go, and when he works that out, he's got elite qualities and attributes.
One of the most common things I hear with junior coaches or amateur coaches is, you know, we're going to go out and be hard at the ball today. What does that mean? Now, anyone can say that. You know, it's then, well, how do you coach them and help them do that? Your role as coach is to educate your players as to the way they should prepare themselves to play, and then and the way they should execute on field.
I always found, and this is just me, perfection through simplicity. I can still think, if someone said to me, what advice would you give a young coach? I'd have 3 or 4 points. You know, the key to success, to do the fundamentals well over and over again. The most important principle in football is to win the ball. I've seen some young fellas come in and, you know, they complicate it that much.
It used to be it was a player's game, really. And in the full-time era,
do you think
the
they've
180 coaches in the system are trying to much more make it a pre-planned,
a predictable,
we'll teach you how to play. In other words, you know,
you think they're taking the flair out of it?
I don't know. Well, I don't think they've totally taken the flair out of it, but the whole principle is, there's less thinking by players and more thinking by coaches.
One of the things you used to say was hard at the ball and hard at the man.
Yeah.
You couldn't say it now.
No, exactly.
Could you?
No, you couldn't.
It's hard to imagine coaching if you couldn't say, go for the ball with everything you've got. You can't be wondering if I'm going for the ball, having developed the habit to wonder whether Ron's coming the other way or anything. You've just got to go for the ball.
Exactly.
If you've got to modify your coaching in that way, that'll be it for me.
Another major shock has hit the football world, with the Brisbane Lions sacking their coach Michael Voss.
Decisions like these are never easy, and we understand it will be greeted by a mixed reaction from our members and stakeholders. Ultimately, though, we're adamant that we've made the right decision.
I was literally about to walk into a performance planning meeting, but I got a phone call from the chairman to say, we're having a board meeting today and we're going to make a decision on whether you're coach or not. That was a bit of a bang moment. You didn't have to really be Einstein to realise that something was about to progress. I'd been sideswiped a little bit. I wasn't surprised at the same time. Grabbed my stuff, grabbed my bag, walked out. I rang my wife. It was the first person I rang. I said to her, it's happened. When I sat there in the press conference, and it didn't hit me till I was in the presser, and it was 24 hours later, I'm looking at this sea of people, I'm thinking, who do I trust here? I didn't know who to trust. So when you're sitting there talking, and people are asking you, do you feel like you lost the players or you did this? I'm sitting there literally going, well, I don't know.
After weeks of speculation, the Saints finally moved.
The decision of the board today was not an easy decision. It has been the result of a significant and considered process.
Only hours earlier, Scott Watters had been on radio declaring his position was safe.
When a president sits with you and says we see you as a long-term coach, that's enough for me.
But the club disagreed, deciding to cut ties and start over.
I'm not going to sit here and say there's not an element of disappointment and anger and bitterness and all those things that accompany any loss, no doubt. Probably a sense of wanting to get even as well. There's all of that. But at the same time, first thoughts are about your family. So get your kids out of school, make sure they're protected and looked after. If you have, a sound perspective on what's real and what's not, family is real. Media perception and comments, that ain't real. So cope with the disappointment, look forward. I think most coaches are really, generally pretty positive people and like to create and build things and like to be part of a team and help people achieve things. So you also move on pretty quick and look forward for the next challenge. People can judge whether you did the right thing or the wrong thing, but I'm just a person that would rather get in the ring and have a go as opposed to being a critic or a spectator.
I decided to get out of the country. First opportunity, I went to New Zealand. I remember sitting up on the top of one of the mountains, just looking across Queenstown and just sitting there. That was probably the most emotional, and I don't mind saying that I shed a tear through that time.
Rightio, Charlie, show me what you got. I want your best effort. One bounce, kick it high over the top.
I'm coaching the under-8s, which I wouldn't have been able to do, obviously, if I was coaching in the AFL.
You've got to run about 10 metres, have one bounce, and then kick a goal at the other end.
So doing that on a really simplistic level reminds me of why we all got involved in this game in the first place. So there's something really pure about coaching kids.
We always try and put messages in for our kids. And I could look them in the eye, and I did say this to them. Hey guys, there's going to be a lot said about Dad. Some might be right, some might not be. But I can let you know this. Dad gave his best, it didn't work out, and sometimes that happens.
I think there's only two sorts of coaches, those sacked and those to be sacked. It's as simple as that.
I never waited long enough to know all that.
You read the writing early, did you?
Get them before they get you.
I got appointed on a Monday night by John Elliott for the next season and sacked on the Thursday night. I'm still trying to work out what I did between Monday and Thursday that cost me my job.
It's only a natural human response that you're going to be disappointed or hold some grievance, but talking about it's pointless. You're better off going home, opening your wardrobe up and having a chat to your 6-day-old suitor and saying, what you want to say and shut it again, because you only make a fool of yourself and nobody really cares. So it's just human nature. You're going to be disappointed, you're going to be punchy for a while, and then as time goes on, you get over it.
Oh, he's around me. He's got around me. Oh, chasing you.
There's no doubt at times that it comes into my brain about, the future. But I tend to not get bogged down on it because I think my main job is the here and now.
Maybe like Kevin, you'll coach the Giants for 27 years and then we'll ride off into the sunset. I don't know, but it's it's going to end and it probably won't be fun, and I've seen it end for a few other coaches, and you've just got to not think about that because we've got to enjoy the ride while it's going good.
I've told my wife it's not going to end well, this career, whether it's in 12 months or 10 years.
I'm aware that I could have a successful coaching career and be done by the time I'm 45. There's still a fair bit of living to do. So I think about it. It's a little bit of a concern for me.
If you don't want to be fired, don't become a coach. It's part of the industry. I'm dreading that day without question.
I don't fear it. I don't have any fear of failure, never have.
Whatever happens and it comes a time for Guy McKenna to go, that's going to get ugly, but maybe so it should.
Most coaches are like that Monty Python film, no arms and no legs, but you're done, but you just want to bite someone's head off.
90 minutes to wait. Voss pops on the other side of this, particularly if there's any coaching-related questions out there that you want to fire at Vossy, not just about the coaching of the game, but maybe his own future in the coaching ranks.
Where's this come from?
Feel free to share them.
We've lost 24 coaches in 4 years. have been removed from their roles. We're somehow not making great decisions about who we put into this particular role at the moment.
I think we've got to change the pathway somewhat to think your playing career should get you a job.
Again, as a new coach, and without necessarily that experience, I didn't go down that path, and I wish that I actually did do that.
Vossi I sit and listen to on the radio. He's exactly as I thought he'd be, very, very articulate, understands the game very, very well. I'm sure there'd be things in his coaching that he'd do differently if he had his chance again. Proper accreditation and development pathways is the way to go for coaches now.
All about how many shots a goal would we have had in pre-season and now? Give me a rough estimate.
I think the number we're up to only last week was about 12,000 shots a goal. Our conversion now is at a season low. So I'm going to go back to the man who knows how to fix kicking actions and find out why. We've given them enough practice.
Well, you've not given them directed practice though. You've just given them practice. You've given them volume, not instruction.
That doesn't help me as the coach. I'm running the program that you're telling me that we need to do. We need to practice, but you're not breaking it down enough for me.
I know I was ready to have a go at the job. Whether I'm going to be successful or not, I don't know, but I was certainly ready and had enough experience to know that I was aware of most things that were probably going to crop up if they were going to crop up.
There's no doubt in my mind there has to be a point system that the person must obtain to be ready for AFL football. We're seeing far too many people fail, and they're failing because they just don't have the experience, and then they're lost. Our game gobbles people up and spits them out. Boards don't get it. Football boards do not get it. But I think the Coaches Association thoroughly understand it. And I think it's a classic one with Michael Voss. He's the first to say now he should have done an apprenticeship. Perhaps James Hird should have done an apprenticeship.
Well, my view is, and quite cynically, the sooner you get a job, the sooner you get the sack. So I'm not sure what the rush is.
Let's theorise. Marriage or succeeding with this football team? Might be the footy. Really?
No matter what you were thinking, you couldn't say it.
No, I couldn't. I couldn't imagine that. Although my wife probably could imagine it.
Is Chrissy going to watch this? I'll tell the boys it's the footy club. I'll tell her that's the best way to deal with it.
What's going to echo into time? If I say footy here, I reckon that'll... I still reckon there's a bit of theatre in all of that as well. And we love it. We love it.
I can remember walking into my house with my lovely ex-wife who welcomed me home, and it's a normal life and normal days. I said, oh, by the way, I've just been reappointed coach of the Carlton Football Club. To this day, I'll never forget the look on her face. That mob, you're actually going back to coach that mob who hung you up by your testicles in public places, and you don't even have the courtesy to give us a call and ask us whether we think that's a good idea or not.
I don't think we could do what we do without the support of your partner. They make a massive sacrifice, and Mum has to be the surrogate father for half the time during the year. It's always about the kids, but then what about her? When does she have her piece of time with you, you know, your chance to actually sit down and talk to her and how her life's going, you know? You do it, I have to be honest, where you know, you're listening to 60% of it, but 40% you're already thinking about it. Gee, what about Charlie Dixon? Is he going to kick that winning goal after the siren or whatever going on? And yeah, there is certainly a massive distraction in your life.
I try to get as much life balance as I can. I feel for Nanette more than anyone because she's almost agoraphobic at times because she feels as if she can't go out, which is a shame. It's a real shame. And perhaps on reflection, that's the thing that I didn't take into consideration, that it have such a bearing on her.
Good luck, darling.
Thank you, darling. Have I put enough time into my obligations as a father? I get a great reassurance from my children and my wife that I have. That is really reassuring.
Perhaps I was a little apprehensive to start with, but Leon wanted to be a senior coach and we said, well, you know, we're going to give it a go as a family and wherever that took us, we go. And he doesn't bring things home. I would if I was in that job. I'd find it very hard to switch off.
I still deliberately, you know, have some time out with my wife to make sure that, we are still normal. But my kids actually really challenge you and bring you down to earth.
The 2-year-old now likes to sit next to Liam while he's doing his replay, which is entertaining. So I hear the 2-year-old come out saying, "Should have kicked to the top of the square, Mum."
There you go.
Good. Good.
Hello, Bomb, how are you? Yeah, look, I've got a young family. My vital organ are my kids. Like, make sure you read to them and give them a cuddle every night. So that's your sort of relaxation, which most family people would say.
Someone once said to me, it was probably Tammy Roos, about having some time when Ross gets home where you turn your phones off and you just spend time with your family and you're focused on your family. And I think that's probably really important. He's got better at really drawing the line with those sort of things. I think that's important.
You miss out a bit on your kids' upbringing, which is sad at times. It's amazing how quickly footy can become less important. It's good to get a reminder every now and then about how important things outside that little bubble are.
As I'm driving out, Kirsten understands it's beneficial for her and the family, so she knows if I need to be at the club or be somewhere, there's no question, it just gets done.
Nathan, do you have anything to do with this dress?
No, I found out about it about 15 minutes ago, but she's done well.
Tan's life partner, wife, mother to the kids. And I think in a senior coaching role, by necessity, you don't open yourself up as often as potentially you should, to criticism or to show weakness. You need the right person there to be vulnerable to.
Okay, do you want to take it? Yeah. You can promenade yourself around.
Family always comes first, without question. If you're a coach and you say the footy comes first, I think you're lying.
But if I thought for a moment that taking on this position as a senior AFL coach would jeopardise my marriage, I certainly wouldn't do it.
Probably my only fear in this is just that public scrutiny that comes with the role. He's already told me repeatedly to stop reading the blogs because I'm shocking at it. Far out there's some mean people out there. People just tend to forget that these are just human beings.
What's the most emotional you've been so far as senior coach?
Jared McVeigh when he lost his daughter. It's something that sort of I still look back on and think that there's that much things that are that much bigger than football. And I was privileged enough to be pretty close to Macca and Clementine and his family at that particular time, and they taught me a lot.
Gee whiz, emotional. My sister had breast cancer and it was quite aggressive. When you're getting chemo and treatment, they're really vulnerable to colds. Because I'd been ill, so I didn't want to go near her. I rang her, got the message, I said, "Hi Jules, I haven't been in because I know you've been crook, I'll see you, I hope you're well." And then 11 o'clock at night, Kirst came in bawling her eyes out and woke me up, and Julie's died. And I was in shock because I didn't expect it, you know what it's like when it's a shock. And I sort of erupted a bit. And I drove into Royal Women's, and obviously, you see his sister passed away, and you give him a hug. And my beautiful niece, Sarah, she was only, God knows how old, 5 or something. To go and get her and bring her to see. But there was two things. Why I coached that weekend, we often talk about to our players, we don't care how you feel, it's how you act. Emotions, yeah, that's all fine, but it's about what you do. It's about action is king. The club had been trying to get a sponsorship off St George, and I was committed to do a presentation to about 70 people the next morning. And I remember I went in and I did that. As a senior coach, you've got to live your doctrine and stand up. The players knew, but I didn't mention it, I didn't talk about it, my private life, and I didn't want to burden them. And but as a leader, you've got a responsibility to keep going. You have to wear everything on your sleeve,
So Adelaide with 8 of the last 11 goals in this match and leading at three-quarter time by 14 points.
Inside.
Good challenge, come on.
It's an awesome challenge. It's an awesome challenge.
You're smashing him inside the contest and you're beating him outside. You've done it for 3 quarters. I challenge you to do it for 4. When it comes, take it.
We have had times that the scoreboards look favourable for us and we haven't finished it off. I urge you boys, for each other and for what we're trying to build, everything you've got for this 30 minutes. Contested ball, pressure, and be brave. Take it on and run so you have nothing left.
The last challenge is I need 22 crows. This jumper that you're wearing today now defines if you're a crow. 22 of you now, for 30 minutes, are playing like crows.
Jock, you just kick straight. Set. Oh, Jesus Christ. Come on, when Hammer's coming, will you? Oh. The turtle. A rough shot today.
We love to create an environment that we work incredibly hard, but we still like to have a fun time doing it. And I think if you take the fun out of footy, you're missing one of the best parts of it.
And that's one thing we look back on. He just lost his personality. He was Mr. Serious. Like Daddy's always been a bit of a prankster, and I think that he lost that when he went to coaching.
Most of the general public, and even some people that should know, underestimate how important it is to you. I think it's only natural that you lose your sense of humour a little bit when your whole life's at stake. And some people might say that's a bit melodramatic. But for me, it is my life. And my success or otherwise is going to have a huge influence on what I do for the next 50 years of my life. So I don't really make too many apologies for losing my sense of humour at times.
You find yourself always focusing and you got that constant sort of frown, you know, you get that sort of axe mark between your eyes where you've got the permanent frown.
2 things ruckman shouldn't do, mate. 1 thing's bounce it, other thing's kick a banana. Actually 3 things, all bounce.
All calling for the handball.
What's a snap on his leg? What's that, mate? Oh, there's times where you lose your sense of humour, there's no doubt about that. Well, I still have it, absolutely, I still have it.
Humour's still got a massive part to play in footy clubs. Being able to have a laugh, it's scientifically proven, mate.
I have to temper it. I think I've always been everyone tells me sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. I just found it the funniest, that's all.
I think it's a good thing to have if you can maintain your sense of humour. I often said to blokes that I've worked with over the journey that if I ever get a senior coaching job, as soon as you see me being a dickhead, ring me up and tell me. You know, it is just a game.
Tonight, it was all the Crows. Sando has a win over Bucks.
Good work, boys. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. That's better. Beat a top 4 side.
There's nothing pretty about that. There's no redeeming numbers there at all. There's nothing.
That was awesome, okay? Absorb as much of that as you can, just for a short time, enjoy it, because you just beat a top 4 side on your home deck, okay? And you can see the energy and the excitement that creates around this place. You should be really proud.
We had blokes that looked like they accepted fatigue and didn't work hard enough. That should hurt.
Okay, you're going to get hounded now about, are we back? And, we're 4-4, we're in the 8, all that stuff. Just keep a lid on it. We beat a top 4 side. We're really proud of that. We owed our fans one. We owed each other one.
This is not the end of the world. We lost the game of footy and we performed poorly. This is not the end of the world. My fundamental drive is to create an environment for each bloke to tip into and to grow, and I've got an absolute belief that will give us the best chance of success. That's the essence of it. That's what we're looking for.
To see the Gladiators go out in the middle and just bust their guts. And if you can get them to bust their guts more often, more consistently than your opponent, you got a half a chance of winning. And that feel of that combat is, I don't know how you ever replace that.
The single biggest influence in AFL football is a coach. Don't get me wrong, the star players are always what people want to go and see, but who has the most impact on those players? The coach.
Look, the AFL at the moment is made up of good coaches and elite coaches. You wouldn't get there if you didn't know what you're about. The difference between the good coaches and the elite coaches are those coaches have got those interpersonal skills. They can read people. They can shape and influence events. They're great listeners. They understand empathy.
Understanding people is what the whole coaching game's about.
Oh, I think you've got to be a great communicator, great teacher, honest, hard-working, and have integrity.
Listen. And then when you thought you've listened, listen more, and then listen more.
You need an emotional intelligence and you need some organic psychology. Psychology leadership goes hand in hand.
If I was to nail one single item that I think has come out over 30-odd years of coaching, if you can demonstrate you care, they will give you an ear. And that's the most important thing.
They've got to be alpha males. When they come into the room, that's him. That's the man. And if you take someone like Barassi and John Kennedy, those old-fashioned coaches, there was a sense of a deep and fundamental honesty about them. And I think that's very important.
What's the one bit of advice you give to a coach beginning?
Make sure the truth always gets out. In any conversation, interchange, you've got to tell the truth.
Ultimately, you've sort of got to be yourself, I think. You know, learn from everyone you've observed, but ultimately you've got to be yourself and don't expect your players to be a clone of you.
If you want to be an AFL coach, make sure you live the dream. Don't let anyone destroy your dream. And remember, it's one of the most exciting adventures you can have in your life to coach an AFL team.
When you boil it down, we spend a large proportion of our life sitting in a room or standing out in the ground talking about footy. Well, it's what most people do at work when they get a chance in between the important stuff. Like, it is a great life.
Sometimes we forget how lucky we are to be doing what we're doing.
I quite often say to our players, could be working for a living. Yeah, the pressure's there and it's 24 hours, but it's the best job in the world.
This is the greatest game on earth, and I think I've got the greatest job on the planet.
I'm starting to think the job makes you weird.
I agree with it now when I look at myself. I think couldn't come up with a better weirdo than me. I think I've always been weird, to be honest.
Not sure if I'm weird just yet, but I'm heading in that direction.
You'll become very weird after a while. You do become a bit weird.
I can understand why some coaches, a long time into it, do lose their marbles.
I don't think I'm overly weird, but I'm conscious that I'm going to end up that way. So it must be the job that turns you that way.